Okay, so take a look at this. It's just a pencil, right? An ordinary, everyday pencil. Billions of them are made, used, and then forgotten about every single year. But I have a question about this little object that might just change the way you see the world. I mean, really think about that. From scratch, all by themselves. Is there any one person, anywhere, who could create this? The CEO of a huge pencil company. Some kind of engineering super genius?
That's right, the answer is nobody. Not one single person on this entire planet actually knows how to make a pencil. Now, I know that sounds completely crazy, but let's break down why it's not only true, but why it's actually an incredible, beautiful thing.
All right, so to really get our heads around this puzzle, we have to take this thing apart. Let's look at what's really inside a pencil. So it seems simple enough at first. You've got the wood, which is usually cedar, but wait. To get that wood, you need a logger with a saw, and that saw is made of steel, which comes from iron ore. You see where this is going? The lead, which isn't even lead by the way, it's a mix of graphite and clay. That needs miners and chemists. The eraser? That's rubber, tapped from trees by workers in, say, Malaysia, who have almost certainly never met a logger from Oregon. And that little metal band holding it all together? That's brass. That needs a whole different set of miners and smelters. And the paint, don't even get me started. That's a whole other universe of chemical production. Okay, so we've got all these materials, sourced from literally all over the globe. But you know what's even crazier than what a pencil is made of? It's who makes it.
See, every single person in this massive supply chain is a specialist. You have the logger, the miner, the truck driver, the factory worker. They're all contributing a tiny piece to the creation of the pencil. But here's the real mind bender. They are not working together.
I mean, seriously, they don't know each other. They probably speak different languages, they might follow different religions, they definitely don't have some big shared let's make pencils plan. Their cooperation isn't based on friendship or some deep love of stationery. It's happening because of a much more powerful underlying principle.
And this is the core idea right here. It's called dispersed knowledge. The total amount of know-how required to make one simple pencil is spread out, scattered across millions of people all over the world. No single human brain could ever hope to contain all of it. Our own knowledge is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the whole.
So that's the big question, right? If there's no pencil czar, no single mastermind directing this global orchestra from the top, then how on earth does it all get coordinated? Who or what is the invisible conductor? Well, the answer is deceptively simple. It's the price system. Prices create this amazing, powerful chain reaction. Just imagine for a second that demand for pencils suddenly goes up. Okay, so the price of pencils rises. That's a signal to the pencil manufacturer, hey, we need more pencils. So, they order more wood. What happens next? Well, the price of wood goes up. And that higher price sends a crystal clear signal all the way to the logger that says, it's now more profitable for you to go cut more trees. And just think about how genius that is for a second. The logger doesn't need to know why more people want pencils. Is it a new school year? A big artist convention? It doesn't matter. He only needs to know one thing, the price. The price is the signal. It's like this incredibly efficient information system that coordinates the actions of millions of people without any of them needing to know the whole story. So this system is unbelievably powerful, but it's also incredibly delicate. Which brings us to the next logical question. What happens when something interferes with those price signals? What happens when the information they carry gets distorted? Well, this gets at two fundamentally different ways of thinking about how to organize society. On the one hand, you have the spontaneous order that gives us the pencil, a system that grows from the bottom up, coordinated by the choices of millions. On the other hand, you have central planning, which tries to direct everything from the top down. And the big, fatal flaw there is that no central planner, no matter how brilliant, can ever possess all that dispersed knowledge. By trying to command the orchestra, they end up silencing the very signals the musicians use to play in harmony. And one of the most common ways these signals get all messed up is through what's often called cheap money, artificially low interest rates. The analogy here is perfect. It's like taking a painkiller for a really bad injury. Sure, it masks the pain. A failing business can get a cheap loan and keep going, but you haven't fixed the underlying problem. In fact, you're probably making it worse, because now you're trapping valuable resources in projects that aren't working, instead of letting them flow to where they're actually needed. The errors just pile up. This kind of distortion creates a very predictable and very damaging cycle. First, you get this artificial boom, right? It's fueled by all this cheap credit. It sends false signals that lead to a ton of bad investments in things that people don't actually want. And then, inevitably, reality comes crashing in and you get the bust. And listen, this isn't just a theory. After this was done for decades, the 1970s were hit by a devastating crisis called stagflation. That's the worst of both worlds, high unemployment and high inflation at the same time. It was a disaster, and it was exactly what the economists behind these ideas had predicted would happen. So who was this economist who saw it all coming? And what's the big idea we should really take away from the story of our humble pencil?
The man's name was Friedrich Hayek, and way back in 1945, he published an essay that laid all of this out. He argued that the central economic problem isn't about how to allocate stuff. No, he said the real problem, the fundamental problem, is how to best make use of knowledge that is never and can never be held in a single mind. Hayek explained that for this miracle of cooperation to happen, you need a solid foundation. You can think of it as resting on 4 pillars. First, the division of labor, which lets people specialize. Second, the right to private property, so people own what they produce. Third, the freedom to exchange, so they can trade with each other voluntarily. And finally, the price system, our invisible conductor that coordinates everything without needing a boss.
So here's the real takeaway. The pencil is proof that you can have incredible complexity, amazing cooperation, and beneficial outcomes without anyone being in charge. Order doesn't have to be dictated from the top down. It can emerge organically, from the ground up. It's a testament to what free people can accomplish when they're allowed to cooperate. And that leaves us with one last, pretty fascinating question. The fact that a pencil exists at all feels almost magical, and yet it happens millions of times a day. So, if this spontaneous order of free people can solve a problem as mind-bogglingly complex as this, without anyone even being in charge, what other seemingly impossible problems could it solve from the ground up?